Let's see that. Okay, there we go. Oh, we've got some people.
Good.
Alrighty.
We've got audio. Can you hear us? Okay, very good. So I want to welcome everybody to the October 5th monthly meeting of the El Dorado Hills Community Council. And with that, I've called the meeting to order. So let's do the leadership team roll call, and let's kind of do it kind of in alphabetical order. So John Davey, you're here, correct?
I am here. John Davey, I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. We are a resident group of volunteers that reviews proposed development projects in and around El Dorado Hills and provides resident feedback to the planning process and the applicants.
Excellent, thank you, John. So Dr. Josh Elder is going to be absent this evening. He's got work duties. He's a ER doc down at UC Med Center, so he's not going to be able to join us, but hopefully next month he'll be back. Having just returned from his military service, he's reacclimating to being back home, and so we're going to welcome Josh hopefully to our next meeting and get him back into the throw of things. So with that, let's go to Glenn Krakow. If you'd introduce yourself.
Good evening, Glenn Krakow, Community and Economic Development.
Very good. And then Cindy.
I'm Cindy Munt. I'm Supervisor Heidel's assistant, and I do the community information and outreach for the Community Council.
Thank you. And then Richard.
I'm Dick Ross. I am an observer, commentator relative to the transparency of government in El Dorado County.
Thank you. And John Vania. John, did you join us? Not seeing you up there. Check the text message and see if he's responded here.
I don't see him there.
Yeah, no response. Okay, so hopefully he'll be able to join us in progress, but we're going to go ahead and move forward. So with having gone through the leadership team role, Cindy, can you help me recognize any District 1 commissioners or committees members that may be on the meeting? Typically we have Commission on Aging and other commissioners.
Wendy May.
So Wendy May, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, everybody. A pleasure to serve. Your connection to the Tax Assessor Appeals Board.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Tita. Let me see. Tita.
Hi, this is Tita Bladen. I'm on the Commission on Aging for El Dorado County.
Thank you, Tita. Anybody else?
Let me see. I don't think we have any more other commissioners.
Okay, all right, very good. So having completed agenda item 1, we're going to move on to item 2, adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Is there anyone on the leadership team who would like to propose any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, seeing none, then we're going to go ahead as agendized, and we'll move on to item 3, public comment. So this is the opportunity that we want to encourage anyone in the public who's in attendance tonight that would like to comment on an item not on the agenda. This can be a question, it can be a comment, just anything that you have observed, maybe in El Dorado Hills that you're concerned about. So let's open it up for public comment. So either raise your hand if you have, yeah, go ahead.
Please make sure you unmute yourself when called upon. If you're joining the meeting by phone, press *9 to indicate a desire to comment. We'll call you by the last 3 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to speak. If you're joining by Zoom, press the raise hand button, and please voluntarily state your name for the record. Let's see if anybody, oh, Gavin. Gavin, let me see. Gavin. Oh, unmute yourself. Here, I'll unmute.
I got it.
There he is.
Welcome, Gavin.
Thank you. My name's Gavin Washburn. I live in El Dorado Hills. I have 2 items this evening. I just updated Zoom, and I was having trouble recording meetings. I would like permission to record a bit of this one to see if it actually did any good. Zoom support advised me that they were addressing that problem. Item number 2 is, if you haven't had a flu shot, we went today to the drive-up behind the Palladio, where the ambulatory Kaiser is, if you have Kaiser. It went very well. They take 6 cars in at a time in 2 tents, have 3 cars come in on each aisle. You shut your motors off, they give you the shot, send 3 cars out, and I recommend it.
Excellent. Sounds like a great drive-through service. So, or drive by, drive up, whatever. So thank you for the comments. And the Zoom recording, we do record this activity and we put it out as a YouTube, but Gavin, you're welcome to record anything that you'd like. Thank you for acknowledging that. We do have a courtesy notice on the bottom of our agendas that says anyone wishing to record any segment of the meeting shall express their intent to do so before they start recording. So that's what we ask, so that we know who, in addition to our own recording, is actually recording portions or the whole segments of the meeting. It's a courtesy thing only, but we do like to know that in the event that perhaps our recording somehow malfunctions and we need to reach out to somebody and get their recording or whatever, so we present it to the public. That we haven't had a malfunction that I'm aware of yet, but with technology, anything that can go wrong by Murphy's Law will go wrong at some point. So very good. Anyone else on public comment, Cindy?
No. Gavin just still has his name.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. How's that?
Good.
All right. So seeing no other comments, let's move to item 4, our guest speaker. And it's my pleasure this evening to introduce Bill O'Neill. And I think he's got Linda on his staff there with him as well. And we asked them to attend to help explain to us what's new about the elections this cycle. With respect to the November 3rd election, I think we've all received our mail-in ballots. At least I've received mine. If some of them are still being delivered, I would be surprised, but that may be the case if there's delays in mail to some segments of the El Dorado Hills community. And then we also asked Bill and Linda to talk a little bit about the ballot safeguards that we have in El Dorado County. On a national basis, there's a lot of concern with voter fraud, et cetera. I believe that we have as secure a system as you could possibly make with all the provisions that Bill and Linda have put in place. And so I think people should be confident that their votes will, if cast properly, will be recorded properly, will be received and recorded properly. So with that, I'll open it up to Bill and Linda, and whoever would like to do the lead in, and then you can follow up from there. And we will have a question and answer period after the general presentation.
Great, thank you, Supervisor, I appreciate it. So I'll kind of go through some of the things that we're doing, and Linda will jump in as needed, but we're running this election the same way we ran March, with every voter in the county getting a ballot, being mailed a ballot. If you haven't received yours yet, you can call our office. If you recently changed your address or visited the DMV, then yours would be going out in the next group that's going out in the next day or so. We've already mailed our voter information guides, which hopefully everyone got. The state let us know last week that I think it was on Thursday or Friday, they were mailing the state guide. So those are coming a little bit later. So for this election, obviously we're running it the same as March, except we've had to put a lot of planning in place for COVID. The number one thing that we've been focused on is we cannot infringe on anybody's ability or right to vote. And that comes in direct conflict with the governor's mask order. Conflict is too strong a word, but the two are a little bit opposed. So what we're doing is to kind of figure out how we best provide the ability to vote while also maintaining good, safe COVID practices. So this election, we're planning for 95,000 mail-in ballots and 20,000 in-person voters at vote centers. Vote centers are open October 31st through November 3rd. To prepare for that and the COVID pandemic, we changed 5 of our vote centers to much larger facilities to accommodate for social distancing for both check-in of voters and voting booths. We worked with every vote center to see if they required a mask for entry. And if they did, then we're going to provide outside voting, and I'll get to that in just a second. We've ordered and received over 40,000 pieces of personal protective equipment for the vote centers and workers, as well as office workers. That includes plexiglass barriers for every vote center worker who's performing check-in and ballot issuing to separate them from the voters. We've ordered gloves, masks, hand sanitizers, face shields, and thermometers. We've developed a floor plan for every vote center. It's individual to that vote center. And the floor plan lays out where we're going to put everything to ensure we have proper social distancing. We're limiting the number of voters and staff allowed in each location based on purely on the square footage. We're doing the calculation based on 75 square foot per person. We've added 4 staff to each vote center. The first one is a greeter who's going to be enforcing social distancing and handing out masks and other PPE and encouraging voters to wear a mask. If they don't wear a mask, then we have another process for them. We also hired a cleaner who will be responsible for cleaning all the common surfaces throughout the entire day. We've hired a person with a ballot box. They're going to be outside collecting dropped off mail ballots curbside, so voters don't have to go inside to drop those off. The 4th person we've hired is somebody to check in voters outside and issue ballots to the voters who can't or don't want to wear a mask. All vote center staff must wear masks and will have personal hand sanitizers. All vote center staff, before they start the day, they have to go through a checklist that they don't have any COVID symptoms, and then they have to take their temperature and write down their current temperature. We're training, of course, all our vote center staff on COVID safety protocols. We're providing outside and curbside voting for voters who cannot or don't want to wear a mask. The process will work if somebody comes up in line and they don't have a mask on, we'll recommend they wear one. If they don't want to, they express that they either can't or choose not to, then we will have a person go over and they'll get in a separate line, and then a person will take their information and be able to issue them a ballot, and then they can vote outside or they can vote in their car and then drop the ballot into a ballot box. We're going to have inside socially distanced vote centers for the vote centers that don't require masking. So people will still be allowed to go in, and if there's inclement weather or we don't have proper outside locations for them to vote, then they'll be able to go inside and they'll be in an area that's separate from people who are wearing masks so that we can best ensure the safety of everyone. We've contracted with a cleaning company that's going to thoroughly disinfect every vote center every night after the vote center closes. So we will leave the vote centers completely disinfected every night, and then again on election night they'll do that, and we'll completely clean the vote center. We do expect lines. It's because we have to limit the number of people. We're increasing the number of check-in stations and ballot printing stations, but we can only do so much with the space that we have, so we do expect lines, and we're asking people to please be patient. In our office, we generally wear masks all the time unless we can socially distance. Some of the times it's a little difficult because people will come in with hearing impediments and they need to be able to see our lips move. So we'll either put on a shield or we'll be behind a protective barrier. We're going to be handling a lot of envelopes, as I mentioned, up to 95,000 plus mail ballots. And so the staff that are handling those envelopes and those ballots are going to be wearing face shields or masks and either gloves or washing and hand sanitizing often, because we don't have the time. We can't just let the ballot sit for a while to hope that the COVID virus dies. So we have to make sure that we're processing quickly but safely. So again, we're going to have 13 vote centers spread throughout the county. That information is available on our website. Plus we have 13 drop boxes throughout the county. We've also added a ballot box at 2 locations where the elderly are. One of them is Ponte Palmero down in Cameron Park. So they don't have to leave the facility to vote. They can just drop it in the ballot box there. And then the retirement community, 4 Seasons down in El Dorado Hills, we put a drop box there. Because there's quite a few people there anyways, and it just gives them an opportunity to drive up and drop their ballot as opposed to having to go somewhere else for it. So that's primarily what we're doing. It's been a lot of work to prepare for it, but we're in pretty good shape. The ballots went out, as Supervisor Heidel mentioned. We're mailing ballots about every other day at this point because we continue to either get requests or we get ones that are returned, people who moved within the county, so we reissue them a ballot to their new address. So that's about it. Today started in-person voting in our office. So we've been pretty busy today with that. So is there anything I didn't cover? Any questions, comments, or concerns?
So Bill, I dropped my wife and my ballots off today over at the drop box at the county election center. And I think what a lot of people don't maybe understand is when election returns come out election night, what can they expect to see shortly after 8 o'clock? And what is your expectation of how far through the evening before we get updates, those kinds of things?
Oh, okay. Great question. So we're receiving all these ballots back now. We started receiving ballots back last week because we mailed a week early. Today we got well over 400 ballots returned. So what we're doing now is once we get several thousand ballots in-house, which I expect by tomorrow or Wednesday, we're going to start processing those ballots, which means we're going to start running them through our sorter. We're going to do sig checking, and then we're allowed to start opening early. So by the end of this week, we'll start opening those ballots, those envelopes, and extracting those ballots and start tabulating on Monday. Now, when we start tabulating, we cannot and do not look at any of the results, nor do we release those results. The first time anybody sees those results is after 8 p.m. on election day. So our first result, so our goal in our office, and we've been able to do this each election, the results we release at 8 p.m. on election day will include 100% of the ballots that we have in-house or have received at vote centers up until the close of business on Monday. So we will have everything in-house and tabulated. So the results you get at 8 p.m. on election night is going to be about 85% of the ballots that we'll receive back, depending on how busy it is on election night. Of course, we may get a lot of returns on a lot of people in person on election day, and that percentage would change. But our goal is to have 100% done from Monday night. First results, we try to get out as quickly as we can after 8 p.m. So it's generally around between 8:05 and 8:15 we release the first results. The next results we don't release. It's probably at least an hour later because we're waiting for vote centers to return their ballots. They have to go through a closing process, gather everything up, and then 2 people have to bring those ballots back to our office. So once we get those in, we'll run more tabulation. We'll tabulate all the vote centers we can, which are generally Cameron Park, El Dorado Hills, the Lions Hall now in Diamond Springs. So we'll release those results in the second round, which is generally going to be around 9:15. After that, more vote center ballots will be returned. So by about 10:15, we'll probably release another round. And then around between 11:15 and midnight, we'll release the final round for election night. We can't stop or go home until we've counted every ballot that's been voted at a vote center. So by the end of night, election night, we will have 100% of the vote center ballots counted and the goal of 100% of all mail ballots received by the previous night. Now, the results can change depending on how many vote by mail ballots we get election night. If we get 20,000 dropped off at the polls, those 20,000 would then be counted beginning Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that really will be dependent on how many voters wait until election day to drop their vote by mail ballots off. Then, of course, there are people whose signatures were challenged because they didn't match or they returned it without a signature. We send them postcards. We receive ballots after election day that are still postmarked by election day. We still run those through the process and tabulate those ballots. So we'll have up to 17 days to process all of the ballots that come in from the post office later. And then we have 30 days to certify. So really by Friday after the election, we should have about 95% of our ballots tabulated. But again, it all depends on how many get returned on election day. Did that answer your question, Supervisor?
Yes, it did. Very, very, very thorough. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So let's ask members of the leadership team, any other questions you would like to pose? Raise your hand, please, either physically or with the raise your hand feature. Don Davey, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Bill. Thanks for coming tonight. I wanted to ask, a lot of people always have questions about election observers. Can you explain maybe how that's going to be accommodated with the COVID situation for, I understand there's protocols for everyone, but people are going to ask. So I just thought I'd put that in front of you tonight.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Linda will jump in on this one as well, because she manages a lot of the election observers. The big thing with election observers is we want them there. We want them in the vote centers as much as possible. But if it gets really busy and we need to accommodate more voters, we may have to adjust how that works. And Linda can address that even way better than I can.
So when somebody calls and says that they want to go to the polls and observe, there's a packet that we email out to them to give them all the rules and responsibilities of observers. Because of social distancing this time, we are going to train our vote center workers that at least one observer can be in there at a time, but depending on the size of the facility, they may be allowed up to 2. Now, observers are not allowed to interfere with the voting process. They cannot touch any of the machinery. They need to wear badges to identify that they are election observers.
Okay. Okay. So Richard, yes.
Okay, several questions. How many ballots have been mailed out by the registrar's office?
So currently, I'd have to check the latest numbers. We're at about 132,500.
Okay.
That's countywide, right? So
That's countywide, correct?
Yeah.
Second question, what in the past elections has been the receipt rate from the time of the ballots being mailed out to finally election day? Is there a flow that generally exists relative to, I might say, the percentage of the ballots?
It varies tremendously based on the personality of the election. In March, we didn't receive a whole lot prior to, I'd say, the last few days before the election, because the Democratic Party was, there were so many candidates on the ballot that people were really waiting till the last minute to see what would happen. Some elections, this one we're seeing a lot of returns much earlier. So the rate of return, generally the first week is when we see the bulk of them, then it slows down a little bit. Then we start to see a lot more returned as we get closer. But again, in March, we received a whole lot really in the last few days before the election and then at the polls.
Okay.
So there's no real pattern to it.
How do you verify signatures on the ballots?
So we've got 2 systems that we use. One is an automatic signature recognition system. It's software that's used by banks and lots of other financial institutions and government institutions. That system electronically will check the ballots, and then we have the threshold set pretty high. So if it doesn't verify a signature automatically, it automatically goes to a person. And then a person sitting at a computer pulls them up one at a time. It's actually a group of 3, but they look at them one at a time. It pulls up the reference image we have from their voter registration card, and then the image from the envelope. And they go through and verify all of those one at a time. Our staff has been, and those folks have all been trained through Secretary of State's office, Department of Justice, for handwriting and signature recognition. And I've got statistics on, kind of what happened in March, how many we rejected, how many had no signatures, if you guys are interested in that.
Sounds very thorough. Last question I have is, there's been a lot of discussion, or at least comment, I'm not sure it's called discussion anymore, about the circumstance of who receives a ballot. And I've heard comments that all registered voters, which makes me ask the question, do many voters, when they move away, do they cancel their registration? And then secondly, when voters die, how do you learn of that?
So, and there has been a lot talk about it. So a lot of, when voters move away, generally they're not thinking about changing their registration. Now, ballots cannot be forwarded. So if it hits somebody's address and they don't live there anymore, it gets sent back to us. And it has what's called a Nixie tag on it, a little yellow tag. And it shows us they've either moved out of state, they've moved within the county, they're no longer at that address and we have no idea where they are. So those ballots come back to us. Now, if for some reason, and with the death certificates, we get information from the clerk recorder's office, we get electronic records, plus we get stuff from the health department, from, you go to court. I'm sorry, I totally drew a blank. State Parole Board and lots of other organizations. And so we process that information as soon as we get it so that we know whether a person should get a ballot or not. The concern that many people have is if 2 ballots get mailed to the same person, can they vote 2? And the answer is no, there's no way to do that. Because what we do is we verify, as I mentioned, the signature that comes back, but at the same time we say that signature is good, no other ballot, no other envelope can be received from that person. If it is, our system automatically kicks it out. As well as at the vote center, if somebody's turned a ballot in by mail, they go to a vote center. Our vote center application is real time with our voter registration system. So it will pull it up. It literally puts a red light and says this voter has already voted or returned the ballot. So that's how we prevent people returning 2 ballots.
Okay. There are, on the propositions, there are 2 matters that deal with suffrage voting. One is 17-year-olds in primaries who will be 18 at the time of the next election. And another one relates to, I believe, persons who have, I guess the way to say it would be cured their felony conviction circumstance. Do you see challenges to your operation based upon what those 2 propositions propose?
Linda?
So I would say with the 17-year-olds being eligible to vote and 18, that would take a little bit of managing in our system. I don't think it's beyond our election management system from being able to do. But as far as the felony convictions, right now, that's a real fight. It's real broad right now. So it's not just any felony. You have to be currently, you have to have been in prison for a felony and on parole for a felony to not be able to vote. Everybody else can vote, even if you've been convicted of a felony, but you have not went to prison, state prison for it. So that has really already been opened up for voters.
So from our side, it's all just data management. It's going to come down to our vendor. Our vendor will come up with a system that automatically recognizes 17-and-a-half-year-olds or 17-year-olds. And then we're just going to have to go through and validate it. Same with felons. There's going to have to be communication between our system and some of the other systems out there to ensure that it meets all the criteria. But it really just comes down to data management. I don't see it as a large burden.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other hands raised, Cindy? I don't
Not
see
here.
any.
There's some in the attendees.
Okay, so let's go to the phone.
Okay. Right. Gavin Washburn. Let's see, unmute. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you, Bill and Linda, for coming out. That's a lot of information. And I just wanted to add one thing, and correct me if I missed it and you already covered it. The mail-in ballots offer ballot tracks if you happen to mail in. And so far, we signed up for it online, and they told us exactly the date that our ballot would arrive in our mailbox. So far it's working very good. I'm not sure if they will they're supposed to tell us when and if the ballot has been received. And I'm not sure about if the signature if there's a problem with the signature. I know that a lot of seniors, as they age, their handwriting, which was probably chicken scratching to begin with, becomes even worse, if you can imagine, and that signature as well. So I just wanted to add that, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, that's all absolutely correct, Gavin. Thank you.
Okay. Gay. You're unmute.
Okay, hi. Bill, I'm calling in because I have a daughter, and my daughter registered to vote a long time ago, probably in the, let's say, late 80s, early 90s. And she registered with her maiden name. And then years later, sometime later, she went to New Zealand. She came back. All those years, I got her ballots under her maiden name. She was married at the time when she came back. She changed. She went to the polling place, to your office. You weren't there, of course. But she changed that and nullified her maiden name ballot, all the information. And through the years, I keep getting at my P.O. box a ballot for her in her maiden name. When she divorced and remarried, she went back up to the elections place and changed that name. I don't know if she spoke about the maiden name thing, but that should have been taken care of. Well, last week, I went to my P.O. box and I got a ballot in my daughter's maiden name, but mine wasn't there, but hers was. I have shredded that thing. How do we take care of that problem?
So again, this is Linda. It sounds like when she first registered many years ago, we weren't on the statewide system. Why it did not get changed, I don't know if there wasn't a voter reg card that was filled out, because you can't change your name without filling out a new voter reg card. But lately, if she has also changed that, there's a possibility that her two IDs are not matching. So it's not merging her and canceling her old registration.
Okay.
Now we can do that manually if we know the two names and the two birthdays, but we don't want to just, we got to be very careful when we do that, because we don't want to cancel out somebody else's registration.
Right. So should I send her down there another time?
That would be great if she could come down after the election. Right now,
Yeah, I wouldn't send her down before. Okay, I will just let her know that she does need to do that, because it probably was done before all this, all the modern automation and what have you. It probably was. But I just really don't like going to my P.O. box looking for my voter ballot and getting my daughter's. Doesn't even go by that name anymore.
Our system looks for duplicates, but sometimes they slip through, and I was a victim of that just a month ago. I renewed my driver's license, and it actually found my original as a duplicate, and so it merged it with my new one through my driver's license, and then I didn't end up getting a ballot because that first ballot was canceled, and so now it's sending me another ballot this week. So yeah, the duplicate system is looking as hard as it can, but like Linda said, we have to be very careful.
Okay, yeah, I'm assuming there are kinks to be worked out, but and I will let her know, because she says, Mom, it's like, Mom, you gotta take care of this. She's 50 years old,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Joel Wiley. unmute.
Unmuted.
Our good friend Joel.
Hi,
Joel.
Bill. Hi, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. I've got a number of questions here. How long, when you personally validate one of the ballots that got kicked out from the machine, how long does it take you to validate it?
So when you say got kicked out,
It came in and the automated system said that it didn't think it matched.
generally, it depends on the number that we have that are in the queue, but generally it's done within 24 hours.
No, but you pick one up and you check it and you validate it. How long does that take?
Oh, to review the signature itself? Yeah. It depends on how close a match it is, but it's generally within 10 seconds to a minute.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it might be a minute to 2 minutes.
Yeah, it depends on how many are in the queue, really, but it also, like some of the signatures we have are from old files, so the image isn't great, and some of them are from DMV, and those DMV signatures are a little more difficult, so you got to spend a little more time comparing them.
Next two questions. How many, you said that there's about 130,000 ballots going out. How many have you sent out so far, and how many do you have in-house now?
So we have almost 134.
Yeah, a little over 133,000.
A little over 133,000 total registered now. Of those, we've sent out about 130,000. In-house, we haven't done our numbers for today. We generally post, and we'll start doing that tomorrow or the next day, the number that we received back. I'm going to say right now about 2,000.
Okay, because one of them's mine.
Oh, excellent. Dropbox or mail?
Your office Dropbox.
Awesome. We love early voters.
The other question is something Richard brought up. When the Secretary of State says that the ballot has been received, does that mean that it has gotten in-house, or does that mean it has gotten in-house and you have validated the signature?
It just means that it's in-house. Once the signature's been validated, it changes the status to accepted. I believe it's accepted. Yeah. So received just means we've gotten it in, but the signature hasn't been validated. Then it'll say accepted, which means we've accepted the signature.
Okay.
And again, we won't, for the ones like you that have returned them early, we probably won't start processing those until probably Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm assuming by Friday we would be at that point.
Okay. I was wondering how many you had in already. 2,000 is not as many as I thought you might have had, but
it's not a lot, but it's picking up fast every day.
That's about it for now. Thank you very much for all you're doing.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you at the vote center.
I'll see you on 14th for the training.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, thank you, Joel. Anybody else, Cindy?
John Mangan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I'm late to the party. I've noticed that on in the elections office, they have many candidates don't provide any contact information. I guess they're obviously not required to, but I would think that they would want to provide information if they want to make a case as to why we should vote for them. So is there any requirement that they provide some form of contact for the public, to contact them?
There is. They're not required to put a candidate statement into the voter information guide, but they are required to provide a contact phone number and a contact mailing address for the public that we can give out. We can email that out to anybody. We don't have a redaction system right now where we can place those items on their forms on the web. We are looking forward to getting a system where we can. But if you want to have any other contact information or any other campaign forms emailed to you, you just call our office and ask for Kim Smith.
Who do I ask for?
Kim Smith.
Okay, Kim, I know Kim. Because I normally call her when I fill out my Form 700 every year. So, okay, so I can get that for any of the candidates because it's it would be nice that it would be on what's available to the public, you know, if they could have it on there, because a lot of them do provide it, but other people don't. So is there a reason why they just don't do that? So we don't have to call you guys?
Are you talking about the candidate statements in the voter information guide?
No, on the elections office, they have a list of all the candidates and what office they're running for. It doesn't have candidate statements or anything, but it has a list of all the candidates who are running for office.
So on that list, they fill out an internet waiver and they tell us if they want their contact information released or not. So that's totally up to the voters, but all you have to do is call our office and we can send over that information.
Okay, well, I'll be doing that, and I'll probably have a few of them to request. So, okay, I'll call Kim. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we've probably exhausted the questions at this point,
Yeah,
so. Huh?
No more hands.
Okay, all right, no more hands. All right, very good. So Bill and Linda, again, I want to thank you for your time this evening. You brought us a wealth of information, and I'm sure this election is going to go as well as the other ones have. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for the volunteers you recruit. Thank you for the paid staff that attends the vote centers and stuff when that's necessary, because it really does take a team of people to get these things done, and you guys have performed extremely well in that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the questions.
Yes.
All right.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to supervisor communications. And Cindy, do we have anybody from the CSD on? Because I want to make sure we give them an opportunity to talk if there's somebody on in addition to, CETA's not with the CSD, but because we're going to cover two subjects in terms of an update next, and that's Calafia Park and then Heaven. And the park is the responsibility of the Community Services District. That's CSD's park. Heaven is an unimproved property, and so that's really kind of the county's responsibility to coordinate activities there. But I'm asking CETA to provide the input, since she lives up there and has been very active in monitoring both locations. So with that, CETA, why don't you go ahead and give us your update of the things that are happening.
Just need to unmute.
Got it. Okay. Let me get rid of this thing. Okay, good. You can hear me all okay? Okay.
Yeah, come across fine. Yeah.
Not on the CSD yet. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm sorry. I was making a joke. Thank you. And yes, John, I think that's a great delineation there that, you know, Heaven is private property. It is not the CSD's jurisdiction. And Calafia Park and all these other smaller parks in between are the jurisdiction. So, you know, why we kind of got this whole thing together was just because Heaven, as you guys know, is really getting out of control and starting to spread into these other parks. So in that regard, I did kind of connect these jurisdictions, but Calafia Park has some temporary fencing up right now for turf maintenance and other landscaping things. So we all know about that. I just want to give you guys a little update. So I want to say our neighbors are really doing a fantastic job with reaching out to one another. We've really increased our reach with neighbors in different villages, and they are keeping us all up to date and looking out. We did have a kick door burglary attempt on Saturday, September 19th. The gentleman was actually home asleep. It was around midnight. And what was the good news is he was uninjured. There was a getaway car. He made loud noises and called 911. And what do you know? Thank goodness the sheriff was right there on El Dorado Hills Boulevard and was there within 6 to 7 minutes, which is awesome. So that was nice to see. We're having more sheriff patrols. Our neighborhood is starting to feel more safe. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from neighbors in multiple areas up here. And I have been encouraging neighbors really to continue staying alert and to call a CHP and sheriff We're having a little bit of migration with, now that Heaven has that fencing up, people are kind of, you know, like we said before, going into Ridgeview. So after our stakeholder meeting, Ridgeview Village 7 is a small park. It's in between Heaven and Calafea. So there's a traffic kind of pattern. People go to Heaven and then kind of come up to Calafea. So now they're stopping off in this really small park and the open space land beneath it. So I reached out to Bill Fisher, and he's been very gracious and very helpful. And he confirmed with me, he put up at least 10 no trespassing signs in that area and filled out another 602 no trespassing form. So my neighbors now feel confident that they can call the sheriff when people are out there. And let's see here. One thing I think I wanted just to kind of touch base on at our last stakeholder meeting there, we had DOT there, CHP, and I have reached out. So the CHP made some recommendations about calling in reckless driving, suspected, you know, if you smell intoxicating substances, you know, so you see people are drinking and they have their cars there, or smell marijuana, that kind of thing, that we should be calling the CHP so that they have some data that they can record. Even if neighbors think that the car will be gone before they get here, it's still a good thing to call for, because those can be very dangerous situations. We've had bad car accidents and injuries. So one of the little surprises that came up at stakeholder meeting, I don't know if all of you know, but a portion of Beatty has a red curb. And we were a bit surprised to learn from the DOT that red curb that's down there is actually not enforceable right now. And, you know, I think the community is very interested in some other solutions as well to promote public safety. One of the things that's come up time and time again is some kind of like a limited parking, I know, parking restriction or tollway or permit parking. And I know there's a lot of jurisdictional issues there. But we discovered that the red curb is not enforceable. I think the DOT made reference that it was a directive from the sheriff department, and that the CHP says not enforceable. So I don't know what's going on there, but we'd like to kind of get that figured out and see if we can encourage this next traffic advisory committee. So that's DOT, CHP, sheriff, and risk management. They can come together and get information from the community. I know that public safety is a concern that could be taken to help move something forward. And that's just something I wanted to put out there, that our community is very interested in not necessarily just doing red curbs and limiting parking all day out there at all, but maybe some like a certain hour point when we're having the problems, like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something. Or so there's a suggestion and something we'd like to follow up with the DOT and that group.
Very good.
Yep.
Any questions at this point about either the park or Heaven from any of the panelists, which is our leadership team? Okay, seeing none, do we have any comments from the people who are also attending that are not panelists? Comments or questions?
I don't see any.
Okay, well, thank you again, Sita, for the report, the update, and we took action items. We're getting those distributed. We're going to follow up once we get the responses, and then we'll probably schedule another stakeholder meeting here in the near term once we've got the responses back to the action items. So,
Chief Johnson.
Oh, Chief Johnson, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I figured it out. My apologies. I'm driving right now, so if you hear my background noise. But in regards to that meeting that's being set up, please let's include fire in that as well, because there is a potential we can work with DOT, look at that area and establish that as a legal enforceable fire zone.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chief Lilly has been kind of the co-sponsor for the stakeholder meetings we've had. So he's been very engaged. And I know he's out of town right now on the strike team. Hopefully he'll get back safe here before too long. But Yeah, he was not available to join us this evening, but thank you, Chief, for commenting on that. We will definitely do that.
Absolutely.
I just want to express a gratitude. I want to give a shout out to the fire department and CAL FIRE. They've been extraordinary and very helpful and really come to the table quickly to help us with some issues. So the sheriff department as well, thank you so much. They've been patrolling more. Our neighbors are feeling a lot safer and we're seeing a lot of really good progress out here. It's incredible how quickly we've been able to make some changes. And our neighbors want me to tell you that we're very appreciative. Thanks so much, you guys.
Our pleasure.
Very good. So with that, then we're going to move on to the third item, the COVID-19 update. I think most of us have probably become somewhat acclimated with what does the orange tier allow us now that we've moved into the orange tier from the red tier, and recognizing that Sacramento County moved from the purple tier to the red tier. We're still ahead of them in terms of things that are allowed to reopen, but the most significant ones, in my opinion, are restaurants, where indoor seating are now 50% capacity or 200 people maximum, whichever is a fewer number. Likewise, movie theaters, indoors, 50% capacity or 200 people, whichever is fewer. Places of worship, same thing, indoors, 50% capacity or 200 people, whichever is fewer. Gyms and fitness is a maximum of 25% capacity. And wineries, indoors, 25% or 100, whichever is fewer in terms of the capacity. The things of note that are a little unusual here are bars. If it's strictly bars, outdoors only, where no meals are provided, are allowed. So if you have an outdoor bar with no meal service, you can run it outdoors, but you can't have it indoors. If you serve food, then it fits into the category as like being a restaurant. So the bar and grill, if you're operating the grill part, you can have the bar indoors consistent with the restaurant seating. Another one that fits into that is breweries. Breweries are outdoor only, where no meals are provided. But again, if they're serving meals, then they can be indoors, similar to what a restaurant would be. So those are a couple of nuances with the orange. The things I'll mention also very quickly, the things that aren't allowed are concert venues, live theaters, nightclubs, convention centers. Scroll down here. Saunas and steam rooms, festivals, and theme parks. And as you can imagine, those are large gatherings, right? So I think that's the category they generally fall under, but those are still fully restricted in the orange tier. So we're very hopeful. We'll get a report from Dr. Williams tomorrow at our board meeting that if we can stay with low numbers, and oh, by the way, they've been increasing substantially in the last week. So we're a little fearful that we're going the wrong direction. But if we're able to maintain the numbers and then actually reverse them and come down again, then we may be able to hopefully qualify for yellow in a 6-week period or something like that. But right now the numbers are going back up. So Dr. Williams will discuss that tomorrow. I'm disappointed with that, but we seem to be having a lot more situations where people are being confirmed with COVID. It's more in the center of the county now as opposed to just South Lake Tahoe and just El Dorado Hills. So Cameron Park, Shingle Springs, Placerville area, those numbers are growing in proportion to what they have been in the past. So don't quite know what's going on, except it's not a positive trend if we're really going to try to get to yellow. So everybody, please understand the requirements, maintain your diligence associated with wearing a mask when you have to be indoors and closer than 6 feet from people, social distancing at all times, even outdoors, those kinds of general things. And the sanitation techniques, if we all continue to practice that, then I think we can be successful in maybe a 6-week period of time or something rather to hopefully move to yellow. But that remains to be determined based upon our numbers. So with that, I'm also going to cover the last one first, and then we'll open up for any questions. Local schools. I think most of us know that Rescue Union School District reopened several weeks ago with a hybrid model. They've been very successful with that. To my knowledge, there were a very limited number of reported cases at, I think it was Lakeview Elementary School. And that's been contained and quarantined, and they haven't had any significant events after that. Just recently, Buckeye Union School District reopened under, again, a hybrid model. And I think that's probably close to what Rescue has, but I don't know what the differences are in terms of the way they're actually doing it. And then the El Dorado Union High School District is scheduled to reopen. I don't think they've opened yet, but I think, or maybe it was today. I'm trying to remember.
Thursday.
Huh?
Thursday.
Thursday this week. So it's this week, but it's not yet, but they are going to open the high school. And I understand that's hybrid learning again. So it's not the full class sessions, et cetera. But it's encouraging to know where all the school districts in El Dorado Hills are moving in that direction. If we stabilize there, then maybe we'll be able to start some broader programs than just that hybrid form of learning, or expand it, whatever it may be. But the school districts are to be complimented for taking that step and getting things done. And part of that was the county is providing very available testing, quick testing capability, quick turnaround capability. So that provides additional assurances that teachers or students who may not feel well can get in and test it and determine whether it's COVID or something else. And with our flu season starting up, we'll probably have a lot of those tests run where sometimes the symptoms can be similar between the seasonal flu and COVID. So it's good to know that we've got that testing available, and the results are also guaranteed to come back in a very short period. I think the maximum is 3 days. So with those two as general comment, are there any questions or comments on either of those items?
Over the panelist, John Davey.
Do you expect to hear from Dr. Williams tomorrow about the governor's new equity metric?
I do. I haven't seen her briefing package. Oftentimes she's working late into the night to get all that stuff pulled together, so I've not seen her briefing package, but I would expect there to be something in there. The other thing I think I can share with you is we're hoping to get a town hall scheduled, and I think they'll be talking about the potential dates of that tomorrow, to be able to have panelists who are very professional doctors and other people in the medical field who have very strong scientific data and backgrounds to be able to share information on the latest that's going on with COVID. I mean, I think we all know the president contracted COVID and had to be taken to Walter Reed Hospital and is now scheduled to be released and all those kinds of things. So that's a very live national example of what can happen. But fortunately, it sounds like he's very strong and is recovering quickly, and we hope that happens. But so some of this is things that you have to look at. What is the risk factor, and then what kind of morbidities do you have that might make you much more susceptible as to whether you can tolerate possibly getting it, or whether you're the kind of individual who may have a very difficult time staying out of the hospital and maybe even the ICU if you contract it. So obviously it's personal health, it's communities, it's a lot of things. But that town hall, we should be able to cover that with panelists, should have questions and answers. So hopefully, since that's been asked by several people in the community, we'll get a really good chance to get a thorough grounding on what the experts in our area are telling us and still advising us. So I'm sure that Dr. Williams will be part of that panel, but there'll be other professionals involved. So just a heads up, look at what's going on there. But thanks for the question, John. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, any other panelists? All right, seeing none. Cindy, is there anybody who's not a panelist that we raise their hand or indicate they want to ask a question or comment?
I don't see one.
Okay, very good. So we'll close off number 5 on the agenda. We'll move to 6, the leadership team progress reports. We always start with public safety. Do we have our sheriff's?
Alex Morton, here he is.
Okay.
Okay.
Alex, you there?
Hi, Supervisor. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon. For those that don't know me, I'm Detective Morton. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I have some numbers some stats that my crime analyst and I put together for the past 2 weeks that I'd like to go over with. So for the week of September 17th to the 23rd, we had 1 grand theft, 2 vehicle burglaries, both of which the vehicles were unlocked. As I know Sita mentioned before, we did have a attempted door kick burg, as we call it, or attempted residential burglary up on Ridgeview Drive. And then we also had a call for service for a disorderly conduct in town center. For the week of 9/24 through 9/30, we had a petty theft of a political sign, mail theft, 2 vehicle burglaries, one of which the vehicle was unlocked, and then also 2 vandalism cases, and 1 attempted robbery in the town center area. And during the week of this past week, October 1 through yesterday, we have 1 attempted burglary to a residence on Mesa Verdes Drive, and then 1 mail theft. Suspect took mail out of a mailbox. So those are the stats that we have for the past 2 weeks in the El Dorado Hills area. I did want to bring up, if I may, just tomorrow night is National Night Out. So we have a couple of events where the sheriff's office is going to be out at different locations. This year, it seems to likely, my guess is due to COVID, scaled down a bit. So we only have, it looks like 3 locations throughout the county. On the west slope of the county, where we're going to have displays and EDSO deputies and other units out at different locations. The main kind of location is going to be at our main office on 200 Industrial Drive in Placerville. We also have some displays up on in Pollock Pines, and then also 1 more down in Cameron Park. That's going to be over by the Peak Nutrition in Cameron Park. And the times on that, I believe it was 4:30 to 6:30 are the times. And for those of you that don't know, haven't been to National Night Out, it's kind of a family gathering type of thing. You come out and kind of take a look at some of the fire and law enforcement services, and speaking for the sheriff's office, and we have a lot of different units that are out there. We have our SWAT team, our explosive ordnance disposal team. They're out, and they're very approachable and able to, you can go up, ask questions, and kind of check out some of the equipment and check out some of the gear. So it's kind of cool to go down and learn a little bit more about the sheriff's office if you're interested.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, sir.
We have Officer Brown with us. You there, Andrew? Okay. We don't have Sergeant Sorey either, right? Go to the Kevin stuff?
No.
Okay. All right, very good. Looks like we don't have a CHP report this evening, so let's move to El Dorado Hills Fire. And Chief Mo, are you still there?
Yes, he's there.
Okay.
I am.
Anything to share with what's going on locally with the fire scenes?
Yeah, locally we've had a number of smaller type fires, nothing of significance. We have had an increase in fatal vehicle accidents, so that's been an uptick. Last night at about this time, Engine 91 down at our Latrobe Fire Station was struck by a vehicle, so there's significant damage there and it's out of service, but the crews are okay, and minor injury transported to the hospital. Over and above that, we still have a number of folks that are deployed to fires throughout the state. It appears as though they're starting to slow down a little bit. We're starting to get some crews and apparatus back. However, the heat of the fire season for down south really starts in November, December. So other than that, the troops are holding up very well, and we remain fully staffed here at home.
Excellent. Yeah, we always maintain the staffing to cover our bases, but obviously it's an endurance exercise when you send people out on these strike teams and then try to maintain everything. So kudos to you and your department for all the excellent service.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Glenn, economic development. Can you share any additional information on Pioneer or anything else you'd like to express?
Well, I can talk a little about it. I think last time it was kind of limited, but now that you have approved the ordinance through the Board of Supervisors, it's a pretty good situation. So Pioneer Energy started about 3 years ago now, and this is something actually Supervisor Heidel asked me to work on when I first joined the Community and Economic Development, CDAC, and we worked it through. We talked to different energy companies throughout the state, including Pioneer was one that we had spoken to. So they knew it was something that the county was investigating, and then that continued to progress, became part of the strategic plan. And ultimately now the Board of Supervisors have decided to partner with Pioneer Energy to deliver, to provide the
Oh,
electricity
man.
that you need.
You have no, I mean, it has been a wild ride. I gotta tell you.
Oops.
Somebody's not
Do you
muted.
know about my think tank over here the other day?
Sita?
Sita, I think
In
you're
my,
not muted.
in my house.
Sita, we're hearing you. Can you mute yourself, please?
There she goes.
Okay, thank you.
Just through the strategic plan, ultimately now that hopefully we'll be able to bring this through. There are some hurdles that we still need to go through with the PUC, but hopefully by the end of next year, beginning of 2022, we'll be able to see this new partnership with Pioneer Energy. And the electricity part of your bill, not the delivery, but the actual electricity, hopefully we'll see savings of about 10% by all the rate holders in the county, equals millions of dollars that get to stay in our county that people can either keep or spend on other services through the county. We will also have more of a voice, and as things continue to change and evolve with electricity and delivery by being a part of a CCA, I think we'll be in a good place in the county. I think it's the direction we should be going. I think it's the best option we have right now, and it does equal some real savings.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. One thing that kind of surprised me is people were confusing this with the potential of stopping the PSPSs, and it clearly isn't capable of doing that, because when we have those power shutdowns because of high wind, that's a PG&E edict, and then obviously it's a delivery system that stays with PG&E even under a CCA. So while this will bring us savings if we're successful in joining Pioneer Community Energy, it will not change the scenario of PSPSs or power shutoffs of basically blackouts due to excess Cal ISO system demands, because PG&E is a for-profit organization and they will shut down the power if they have to. So the stuff we experienced in the summer is going to happen repeatedly despite the CCA, it sounds like. So go ahead.
Right. Well, they certainly will, but to that conversation, I saw recently what PG&E is presenting to Pioneer Energy. And the good news is Pioneer Energy has PG&E's ear, and they are talking to them about Placer County, about what they're doing to upgrade their infrastructure. And so by being a fellow utility, we may have a little more influence of getting PG&E's attention to go and improve their infrastructure, which is the key. It is theirs, and we're not going to buy it. Nobody's going to buy it. At least the way it's currently structured. Maybe in the future that might be an option for a CCA. But just to see what they're doing with Pioneer and to see their response and their improvement, and this year is even an improvement that we've seen. It's, we're not through fire season. I think over the next couple of years we're going to see improvement though on those power outages, which may happen, but we'll see an improvement.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, because I agree with you. I think there is a potential that working through the CCNA, we can get PG&E's ear a little bit better about putting in microgrids and those kinds of things to improve the ability to keep most of the power on, in El Dorado County and Placer County, and anybody that's part of it, as opposed to shutting down large systems. Hopefully they can isolate and shut down smaller portions of a grid where they have the high wind exposure, et cetera. So more to come on that, but thank you, Glenn, for that portion of it. So let's move to infrastructure. John.
All righty. I think we have on there the status of the Silver Valley Bike Path project. So, they've had equipment on site, I think, for about a week and a half or so. And it looks like they're progressing, primarily doing drainage changes. And they should have that done, hopefully, before too much of the weather hits. So So they're moving right along. So I don't know. I don't have any specifics on when exactly it's going to be completed, but it's not a very large project. So
Yeah, hopefully it'll be, because I did get email, with people that normally walk that trail or, take their dog or jog it or whatever, and they were disappointed it had to be closed for the drainage portion of an installation. So just to let you know, that was the feedback we got, which is why I wanted you to address it. So anything else in infrastructure you'd like to speak to?
well, we had, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, and I had not chimed in yet, about Bass Lake signal and so forth. Did you talk about that at all?
We did not.
Okay, did you get a date from Raphael as to when the turn on is for that?
I did not see a date on the turn on the signal unless John's aware of something coming in through.
No, I haven't had an update since, I haven't had an update since last week.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it should be happening pretty soon. So, so I guess the plan is we're going to be doing a turn
I'm
on.
going to ask Cindy to reach out to Hannah and ask the question because I think it is important to get that update. And I've not seen anything. We're trying to increase the communications there, and I think it is getting better. But I just, think the more information the county DOT provides on these things, which will affect driving habits and the expectations and that stuff, the more we can put that out in a timely manner, the better. So.
Yeah. And we're on a break from Planning Commission till this next meeting is canceled. And so we got a meeting at the end of the month. And we're going to be getting, the only item we have on there is that we're going to be getting an update on the housing element. So, so stay tuned.
All right, very good. Thank you for the report. Good governance. Dick, unless they had a question. Does anybody have a question, John? Maybe I missed that.
No.
Okay. Dick, good governance. We had preparation for voting on the state propositions. I had to go through that about the third time to try to make sure I understood what was going on because it's very misleading what they put in the pamphlet and other literature. So what was your assessment?
Well, first of all, ditto to what you just said. And probably the best thing to do is not to pay any attention whatsoever to TV ads or anything else. It is amazing how at the time of elections, educators, veterans, firemen, police officers, and every other empathetic or sympathetic entity can be linked to just about any proposition in 25 words or less usually. I think the propositions themselves, I'm not going to sit here and make any kind of recommendations. That's not my role in this position. But I think the general election guide, information guide, is probably your most neutral source of information. That hasn't always been the case in the past. And some of the labeling of the propositions alone, Proposition 25 in particular, you have to kind of read it carefully to realize what the yes and the no is going to impact on. So I think one has to look at each proposition and equate it down to their views on government's role in citizens' lives, good projects, and then special projects, and how much the taxpayer should be expected to support that in all kinds of times, because our economy changes, as we noticed within the last year, how significantly the state's situation with revenue has so dramatically changed from the way it was being perceived just a year ago. So things change. That's about the only guarantee one can say. And in looking at the proposition, once again, form your own opinion. Don't package a 25-word or less answer and think you're going to be able to make a good decision based upon that.
Very good. Thank you. I think that's all good advice. There's so many of them. That's the other thing. If it was 2 or 3, you could really focus a lot of time on and really understand them, but you kind of get overwhelmed with all the all the different pieces, segments of it, views of what's going on there. But thank you for the commentary. So we'll move on to healthy communities. And I mentioned before that we are looking at putting together this COVID science panel. I was advised today that it may be either the week of the 9th of November or the 16th. And that's driven by being able to get qualified panelists signed up. And I'm not sure what day of the week it's going to be or anything else, but Dr. Williams did agree to get all this done. It's just with everything else going on, how quickly we can get people scheduled. So it'll be in that middle of November timeframe. And so that's, I think, is encouraging to allow the public to comment on it, and we'll have a lively discussion, I'm sure. So with that, let's go to APAC. John, what are you looking at for your October 14th meeting?
October 14th meeting, it's online via Zoom, as the last several meetings have been, and I sort of anticipate the rest of this year. We have 2 projects we'll be looking at. We actually have the applicants will be attending the meeting and presenting the projects. First one is, it's a pre-application for the Carson Creek Village, which is, it's a general plan amendment, a rezone, a specific plan, a new specific plan in part of the business park. It's to allow a mix of uses, residential, some commercial, active recreation, park, open space. 97 acres. It's the west side of Latrobe Road at the intersection with Golden Foothills Parkway. They propose an access road in there through Carson Crossing, where it's sort of dead end with the bridges right now. So that's a new project, and this is going to be their first time speaking with us. The other item that we have will be the Creekside Village from Wind Communities. They'll be back. They have spoken to us in the past. They have an update on what their project is, and that, again, that's that 200 plus acres at the south end of the business park that they were de-annexing, and they have a proposal, sort of the same thing, a rezone, general plan amendment, specific plan, and the changes the land use designation from the R&D that the business park has in place right now, industrial, to an adopted specific plan, which is primarily residential, with open spaces and parks as well. So they're going to present both of those projects to us. We're going to learn a little bit more about them. We have a few updates on some other projects here in El Dorado Hills. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on around the business park, and I think we had that conversation a little bit previously in another meeting. But that's the focus right now. You know, everything's looking towards the business park and the residential developments along Bass Lake Road. So absent the Central El Dorado Hills specific plan coming back with something, Marble Valley, that's looks to be our focus for the next several months at least. So, so the agenda's going to go out tomorrow to our mail list, but if you want to look at it, it is online right now, and it has a Zoom link there that you can just click through at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, October 14th.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the report. So with that, let's move on to community information and outreach. Cindy.
Okay, some of the things that we've been posting on our social media sites, of course, the daily COVID updates. We posted all the information on the Silva Valley bike path closure that John Bania spoke about, and also the Bass Lake Road updates. As soon as we get them, we try to get those out. Sometimes we do get them a little last minute. So we've been working with DOT, trying to get those a little bit so you guys can get more of the information on that. Putting out the CAL FIRE statewide fire summaries. So try and keep everybody updated on that. There's going to be low-cost community flu clinics in the county. The one in El Dorado Hills will be on October 12th. It'll be at Fire Station 85 on Wilson from 2 to 4. There's a Veterans Day Letters of Gratitude campaign that's currently going on to honor local vets. They're asking that people write letters to vets, and they'll be passing those out to the veterans on November 11th. And recently we put out the El Dorado Hills Business Park Transportation Plan. There's going to be a virtual open house on October 22nd. So if you want to participate in that, that is online as well. That's about it for me.
All right, very good. Thank you for that. Council member items number 7, we do have an update. Our next meeting will be Monday, November the 2nd, but we do now have 2 guest speakers. in light of the fact that Wednesday, November 11th is Veterans Day. We are going to have Todd Smith and John Poimeru, which are the District 1 assigned commissioner and alternate to our Veterans Affairs Commission. So they are going to be speaking with us and sharing with us activities in terms of what the El Dorado County Veterans Affairs Commission does, and then also the services they provide. So we'll look forward to hearing from Todd and John next month. And obviously it's very appropriate given the fact that November 2nd is not only about a week away from when we get to actual Veterans Day celebration. So with that, I'm going to ask if there's any go-backs, any questions or comments that we may have skipped over, something that somebody would like to go back and
Yeah, Richard has.
bring up. Richard, yes.
Yes, I should have mentioned that the CSD candidates are having a Zoom forum. I believe it's October 5th, and I think it can be found on the CSD website.
It's on the 7th.
It's on the 7th, and actually it's supervisors and CSD.
Both.
Right, both. So yeah, that's coming up. Yep.
Yeah, the link for that is underneath the board menu on the CSD website.
Very good. Any other go-backs? All right, seeing none, I'm going to declare our meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance, and hope you have a great evening.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.